99 Nights in the Forest is a survival horror Roblox game that thrusts players into a dark, mysterious forest with one urgent mission: rescue 4 missing children. Players set up camp, manage their hunger, and brave the dangers of the wild, which include animals, cultists, and the deer monster. But what if I told you this game hides a real-life tragedy? 4 children stranded by a deadly plane crash who fought to survive 40 days in the unforgiving Amazon. On May 1st, 2023, a Cessna 206 single-engine plane, registration HK2803, took off carrying 7 people, including 33-year-old Magdalena Mukutui and her 4 children. The pilot, Hernan Murcia, a former taxi driver, was flying them from their town in Guaviare, where they hoped to reunite with the children's father, Manuel Ranoque. Manuel, an indigenous governor, had fled guerrilla threats and planned to start a new life with his family in Bogota. The journey involves flying over a large part of the dense jungle. Halfway over the Apaporis River, Murcia reported an engine failure. It was the last communication he had with the control tower. The plane lost altitude, and though it seemed he attempted an emergency landing on the river or canopy, it crashed violently into the forest floor. The crash killed the pilot and another passenger instantly. Magdalena survived for a short time, but later died of her injuries, according to her children. Miraculously, all 4 of Magdalena's children survived the initial impact. They were members of the Witoto indigenous people, and this heritage would prove to be their lifeline. The survivors were Leslie Mukutui, 13 years old, the eldest sister whose knowledge of the jungle was instrumental to their survival; Soleni Mukutui, 9 years old; Tien Noriel Mukutui, 4 years old; and Kristen Mukutui, only 11 months old. It was at that moment that the 13-year-old Leslie suddenly realized that she and her 3 little siblings had survived a plane crash in the middle of the Colombian jungle. From that moment on, alone, and without anyone's help, she had a single purpose: to keep them alive in the inhospitable and dangerous Amazon rainforest. The 4 children lived with their parents in Araraquara, a town in the heart of the Amazon jungle, where in the 1930s, a Colombian president ordered the construction of a prison to lock up the most dangerous criminals. Locked up is a figure of speech. In reality, the prisoners lived outdoors, in the middle of a swampy and inhospitable terrain. Anyone entertaining the idea of escape by entering the jungle was signing their own death warrant. The following generations that were born there, many descendants of convicts learned to live among the snakes, jaguars, and poisonous plants. Leslie, as a daughter of that terrain, is familiar with the secrets of the jungle. She knows how to orientate herself by the rays of the sun that filter through the trees, and to recognize passable paths, broken branches, and edible mushrooms. A city dweller would survive to survive in such terrain, but the people of the indigenous communities move easily in the forest and can walk 19 miles a day without hiking shoes. Leslie had grown up with those teachings, lessons that would end up saving her and her siblings' lives. The mission to find the children was named Operation Hope. More than 100 members of the Colombian Special Forces and 70 indigenous people were in charge of the search for the missing children, who were wandering alone through the largest rainforest on the planet. On the journey, the children ran into a dog that stayed with them and kept them company for a long time. But one day, the jungle swallowed him up, and they never heard from him again. Their best friend was lost. In the jungle, it was always night, as hardly any light penetrates the thick foliage. It is so dark that it's hard to see more than 20 meters ahead. If someone strays further than that distance, they can be lost forever. The children must have stayed close together. Leslie, according to the military source, was the one who carried the baby most of the time. The children had no way of knowing, but finding them had become a matter of honor for the President of Colombia. On May 17, 2023, Colombian President Gustavo Petro tweeted that the 4 missing children from the Amazon crash had been found alive. The news went viral in minutes. With the passing of the hours, however, the military did not confirm the president's post. It later transpired that an official had been carried away by rumors in an indigenous community and assumed that the children had been found. Petro had to delete the message and was criticized for not showing more caution. In response, Petro ordered the military to do everything possible to find them, arguing it was a matter of national priority. At that point, the children had been missing for almost 20 days. The commander in charge of the search, Pedro Sanchez, said that if they had not been indigenous children, there would have been very little chance of finding them alive. He had faith in Leslie. The search patrols walked hundreds of miles, weaving a spider web on the map with their steps. But they could not find the children. Time was running out. The search was taking so long that the country practically forgot about them. The government became entangled in an illegal wiretapping scandal and rumors of irregular financing, and almost everyone lost interest. But Commander Sanchez didn't care about all that. He always picked up the phone with the same urgency. Until we find them, we're not going to leave. He believed that if they were dead, the search teams would have found the bodies. The soldiers were supported by the indigenous communities. Without them, the search would have been impossible. Before entering the jungle, the indigenous people prayed as a way of asking Mother Nature for permission to enter. They had a series of beliefs and rituals that are difficult for outsiders to understand. For them, the jungle is a living entity with rationality and will. The children's grandmother said that it was nature that stopped them leaving. Spiritual beliefs are very strong. They also believed that the nomadic tribes of the area had applied ancestral forces to stop authorities from finding the children, because they wanted the siblings to live with them. Indeed, Petro feared that one of the isolated communities may have found the children and taken them in as their own. Anything was better than thinking that they were dead. On the first days, rescuers found pieces of wreckage and the bodies of the adults. Hope was fading until they discovered a baby's bottle, a pair of small shoes, and makeshift shelters made from leaves and branches. These clues proved the children were alive and moving. For weeks, the search team tried to catch up. Helicopters dropped food packages into clearings and played recorded messages from the children's grandmother in the Witoto language, urging them to stay put. But the siblings kept moving, sometimes to find food, sometimes to avoid dangers like snakes and wild animals. They survived on the cassava flour taken from the plain, wild fruits, and seeds. Leslie, the eldest, used her knowledge of the jungle to build shelters, keep the group together, and care for baby Kristen. Finally, after 40 days in the jungle, the military and indigenous search teams found the four. They were malnourished and tired, but their lives were not in danger. Leslie had succeeded in her goal. For Colombia, she has turned into something of a legend. The soldiers airlifted the children out of the jungle by helicopter and took them to a hospital in Bogotá, where they will remain for 2 or 3 weeks. In the hospital, they are already getting bored. The 5-year-old, Tien Noriel, wants to take out his tubes and go for a walk. The children told her that after their 40-day odyssey, they just want to play and read. They are just kids after all. There you have it. Now you know the full story of this completely crazy adventure. If you enjoyed this incredible survival story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing adventures. Thanks for watching.